Welcome to another segment of Stopping Socialism TV. Today we're talking about Joe Biden's big Build Back Better lie and how the CBO blew it out of the water. But before we get to that, I always have to put that call out there to ask for help from you to help get this content in front of more eyes by doing things that are free. All you have to do is hit the like button, hit the share button, leaving a comment, making sure to subscribe to our channel, all things that'll help break through these big tech algorithms that stop this type of content from reaching more people. So, what is the lie that we're talking about? Just a few months ago, it seems like this Build Back Better Act thing has been going on for a long time. But while they were trying to promote this, they had this weird strategy where they were trying to claim that the Build Back Better Act or agenda or whatever, the infrastructure thing, whatever they were calling it at that time, was costless. So, what I have here is a tweet from Joe Biden from September of 2021 saying my Build Back Better agenda costs $0. Instead of wasting money on tax breaks, loopholes, and tax evasion for big corporations and the wealthy, we can make a once in a generation investment in working America, and it adds $0 to the national debt. So, of course, the first part of this tweet is what got the most headlines, that this idea that the act costs nothing. I think we've made fun of this, saying that even if you pay for something, it doesn't mean that it costs nothing.
Right.
But this was like their talking point to really hard sell this to the American public. Not only did Joe Biden talk about this, he mentioned it during interviews. He obviously tweeted about it, just read the tweets. But then we also had Nancy Pelosi saying the same thing, that it costs zero. It's essentially free. Jen Psaki during her little press conferences said the same thing, that this thing is going to cost nothing. It's going to add nothing to the deficit. But looks like the Congressional Budget Office blew that out of the water. So, Chris, you brought this to my attention. So why don't you take us through the new findings from the Congressional Budget Office?
So the Congressional Budget Office finally released their scoring of the Build Back Better bill. And unfortunately for Joe Biden, it's going to cost a lot more than $0. It's going to cost $5 trillion. And it's going to add $3 trillion to the national debt over a 10-year window. And here's the reason why it has jumped from 1.75 trillion to 5 trillion, because they wrote the bill including all these new programs, all these new giveaways, but they said we're going to do them for only 1 year. So we're going to raise revenue for 10 years. We're going to lay the taxes on nice and heavy for the full 10 years, but we're going to include all this new spending proposals for just 1 year. Biden, Psaki, Schumer, Pelosi, Sanders, AOC have all been asked, do you really plan on only having those new spending programs like child care tax credits, universal health care, universal pre-K, the universal 2 years of community college? You're only going to put those in for 1 year, really? And they have just completely obfuscated and not answered that question directly, because they know that they want those to become permanent
Right.
programs.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's the old saying that there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program? It's
Milton
like
Friedman. Yep.
it's like that was kind of the hidden fact about all of this since day one, is that they had all these programs in there, but they had them all. Did they have them all sunsetting, or did they not even go that far?
They had them all sunsetting after 1 year.
1 year. So then the
One
cost
year.
of these things were only for that 1 year.
Exactly.
But we all know that that would not happen, and when the
Right.
actual rubber met the road and it was time to end these programs, you'd already have a bunch of people that are dependent on it. It wouldn't even be politically possible for the Biden administration to end these things. So of course they would live on past that 1 year. So then you had I think you wrote articles about this, or Justin Haskins definitely wrote some articles about this. That's just like, well, those are the real hidden costs. When people are saying that this stuff is all paid for because of all the tax increases and stuff that they have in this type of bill, like that doesn't even tell the whole story, because the real cost of this is going to be much higher than what they're suggesting, because these programs definitely will not end. So the CBO, you're telling me that the CBO actually took that into account when they made these projections?
Right. So the CBO did not include all the gimmicks and shell games that the Democrats were trying to put into this bill. And they took a neutral stance on it and said, okay, you want to put these programs into existence. They're going to be in existence for the full 10 years. Your taxes are going to be in existence for the full 10 years. And they did a dynamic scoring where they said, what is the overall economic outcome going to be? It's very simple. The thing is going to cost 5 trillion and it's going to add 3 trillion to the debt. And I do want to say, although I really respect CBO, and I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they're fake. CBO actually has a tendency, and this is you can look this up, to undervalue government bills.
Oh
So
yeah, they definitely understate the.
yes.
there's
I
some
remember
there's some famous cases of that. Shoot.
Obamacare was a big one. They said it was going to cost, I think, like 1 trillion, and here we are 10 years later. It's cost way more than CBO initially said.
Right. So then what does the administration do when these new facts come in that says, hey, it's not going to be free. It's going to add money to the debt. In fact, it's going to add a lot of money to the debt. Well, Jen Psaki, and when she's being, questioned by the media, she comes out and just says, well, all of that's fake. Jen Psaki calls the CBO, the CBO score for the Biden's $1.8 trillion Build Back Better bill fake. And what does she say here? I've got a direct quote here. Okay. What we're talking about here is a fake CBO score that is not based on the actual bill that anyone is voting on, Psaki said at a briefing. This was an request by Senator Graham to score a bill that is not currently being debated. So what's happening here? I mean, if you're just going based on that, if I'm some type of Biden supporter that's just going to take this from just on face value, it makes it seem like they're actually scoring some outdated version of the bill, and then what they're actually trying to pass is something that doesn't cost nearly as much. What's going on here?
So the House of Representatives passed the Build Back Better framework a couple of weeks ago, and right now it's languishing in the Senate. Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema have both said that they are not supporting it as is. And when Jen Psaki says that the CBO score is fake and that it's based on a bill that does not even exist, that's not true. The CBO score is the exact bill as passed by the House of Representatives. So that bill was passed. It's in the Senate. I doubt it's going to pass the Senate. But if the House of Representatives bill was to be passed in its current form by the Senate, CBO said this is what the economic impact will be. So I guess Jen Psaki is really playing word games here, because yes, technically the Senate has not passed that bill, so technically that bill does not exist. But these are semantic games, and it's what she does.
Or is she trying to say that, like, well, no, the bill doesn't have these programs going on past 1 year? Like, what they're scoring is a theoretical bill that if all these programs that are going to sunset actually went on. Is that what she's trying to say too?
I think she's alluding to that. However, the language of the bill does not say that the major new entitlement programs would sunset after 1 year. The language is super vague, and once again, I cannot think of in my lifetime, 38 years here on this earth, where a government program has passed for 1 year and then they said, okay, that's it, time to sunset it. It does not happen. It will not happen. And
Yeah.
they know it's not going to happen.
Well, this is just setting up for yet another kind of bad news cycle for the Biden administration. I mean, we've been talking about, his appearance in the media, and whether or not it's he's being treated too harshly or whatever. That's a topic of a different thing that we've talked about, but like this is just setting up for another. I just can imagine, right? We've got the holidays coming up. A lot of people, a lot of families going to be around each other. Most of them know not to talk politics when it comes to these types of gatherings, family gatherings, but surely there's going to be many of instances across the United States of people bringing up, this type of program, this bill that's being passed or attempted to be passed. And surely the left side of the aisle is going to have this mindset that it's all paid for, that this is not going to add any debt to the national debt. It's not going to add anything to the national debt. And everyone on this side of the aisle that's listening to this video needs to know that that is not the case, and that it's actually going to add trillions of dollars to the national debt, and this is far more expensive than they're making it out to be. And that's not just right-wing rhetoric. That's the CBO, that's the Congressional Budget Office, like you said, has a history of understating the cost of things. So while they're saying that it's this expensive, it's probably going to end up being even more expensive. So
Yes.
you've got to have that intellectual ammunition if you're going to engage in this this debate
Well,
come this holiday season.
and Donnie, okay, so you brought up the fact that the holidays are here. You know, families are getting back together. You know, finally after last year's lost Christmas to the pandemic, and I had a big family celebration on Thanksgiving, and last weekend was my sister's birthday, so we all got together. And although politics did not come up, guess what did come up? Inflation.
Mm,
A lot of
gas prices.
conversations, a lot of my cousins and family members just talking about, God, went to the grocery store today, this costs this now. God, fill my gas tank, this costs this. So Americans understand that inflation is a major, major problem. And they also understand that if the government were to pass this bill, which would cost $5 trillion, that's going to make inflation way worse. So
Right.
I think the American people are smart enough to understand that this bill would only add to the inflation that's already making their lives really, really difficult during this
Mhm.
holiday season.
That is a very good point, and that's a point that we'll probably end this conversation with, unless you have any other words of wisdom, anything you want to get off your chest before we wrap it up.
Think I've said everything I have to say about this one.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in to Stopping Socialism TV. Like I said, if you want to help us get this message out there, just hit the like button, leave a comment, share this content, make sure to subscribe to our channel. All things that help us kind of break through that big tech algorithm. Also, if you want to see more content, you can always go to stoppingsocialism.com. A lot of great content there. And it's also shared across multiple social medias that we've got. So you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, Parler, Instagram, even. If you look hard enough, you will find Stopping Socialism. But that will do it for today. Chris, you are a ghost on social media, so just join me in saying goodbye to the fine people.
Everybody have a great week.
Thank you all for tuning in. We will talk to you next time.